So, Mayor Adams and the Justice Department. This is a big story. Some of you say, Mark, you're constantly attacking Trump. And some of you say, Mark, you're not hard enough on Trump. I'm like Chief Justice Roberts. I'm about balls and strikes. Sometimes I compare it to the Biden behavior. Sometimes I just analyze it on its own merits or in the context of the broad sweep of American history. What's happening with the dropping of the charges against Mayor Adams is a huge issue. It's not overreaction to be covering this and to asking hard questions. And it's unprecedented. And people say, oh, there's politics and prosecutorial discretion all the time. There is, but not quite like this. So the New York Times in particular put up the graphic, please. The New York Times, and I'm sorry, I'm not calling for them by number, but I'm having number issues. The New York Times in particular is treating this like Watergate. You can see here the homepage, 4 stories, there's 5 stories. They keep writing stories about it, and they will continue to because they have great sources on this because there's lots of lawyers. There are more people who have quit over this already from the Justice Department and from the Southern District of New York than quit during the Saturday Night Massacre during Watergate. That's not like, totally means it's worse than Watergate, but this is really bad. Mayor Adams is not hiding, at least not entirely. Mayor Adams went with Tom Homan onto Fox and Friends this morning to talk about his partnership with the Trump administration, from the Trump administration's point of view, enabled by this deal to keep him from being prosecuted. For now, roll tape.
Governor Hochul said last night with Rachel Maddow that she would consider removing you. How would you feel about that?
She has her role, I have my role. And throughout this entire ordeal, which I think no American should have to go through, the torment of 15 months that my family and I had to endure for something I didn't do. I didn't do anything wrong. Throughout the entire ordeal, I said one thing. My attorney will handle the legal part. I'm going to handle running the city. We return jobs to our city. Our city is getting safer. We're building housing. I think that this is a great American narrative where I stood focused on what I was elected to do.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
You're going to run for re-election?
Yes.
Are you considering running as a Republican?
I'm going to run on the Democratic line. We petitioning to start it, starting soon, running as a Democrat. There's many Democrats, like you look at those 78% that believe what we do, what ICE is doing about getting dangerous people out. I think that we have to get people out to vote. That is the problem.
But you're losing by about 25 points to former Governor Cuomo, who wants to be Mayor Cuomo.
Well, listen to this. I had another Andrew in my previous race. He was beating me by double digits in February, but we don't call Andrew Yang mayor. We call Eric Adams mayor. Never give up.
So, Dan, a couple things, or a few things. One, I don't like living in a city with an incompetent and crooked mayor. I said before he took office he'd be worse than Bill de Blasio, and he has been. I read the indictment. I know about some of the other allegations that are pending. And I consider this to be a huge scandal that the Trump administration they put out the confession. They put out the letter from Trump's former lawyer who's at the Justice Department saying we're dropping the charges for political purposes. That's what they said. They came to policy, but it's not. So is this a big deal, or I forget if voters care about it because they don't. But is this a big deal, and will this cause any political damage to the Trump administration, or they'll just muscle through it?
Oh, it's a huge deal. I mean, the reason they gave for dropping the charges was it would interfere with Adams executing on Trump's focus on immigration. I mean, this is a legal case. And not only were the charges very serious, and the best argument the Adams kind of people in the press were giving is they weren't significant enough, right? No one really is disputing some of the charges. But then it came out that they were getting ready to file more charges, that Adams instructed people to lie. He destroyed evidence. And so to simply say that we're going to drop the charges so that he can help the president, at the same time, they're holding those charges over his head. If Adams goes off the reservation, they could just bring the charges back. I mean, it is unbelievable that if you help the sitting president, you can basically get away with crime as you're on the team. It is just an unbelievable precedent to set.
Dan, I agree with all that. Will they pay a price for this or no?
They will not pay a price for this specifically, but the more that things like this occur, I think it will. I think in totality, it will. It'll be the sum of the parts, not this individual part, that could start causing trouble for Trump and Republicans.
Sean, if 0 is David Watkins taking a helicopter to Camp David during the Clinton administration, which you don't even remember happening, and 10 is Watergate, where is this?
1.5 maybe.
1.5. To explain why this is not a huge failure to fairly administer legal justice.
I mean, there's two separate issues here. There's the merits that you're discussing, and then there's the political consequences. Politically, I don't think anyone cares. I think very few people know. So that's why. I mean,
Yeah.
I
okay. How about the merits of how they're treating the fair administration of justice?
I mean, look, I think that Adams is probably guilty, but I can't say I've read as much as you have, and I don't care as much because I don't live there. So I don't want to pass judgment on it. But the little that I've seen, it seems like he's done some nefarious things.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let's say this was the Biden administration sending a letter to an official saying, we want to drop the charge. We want the U.S. attorney to drop the charges because we want this person to play ball with us. And the U.S. attorney, who was a strong liberal with great credentials, quit. Would you say nothing to see here, or would you say tweet 1,000 times about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's my job. I would, whatever Biden did, I'd say something again. So, let's be honest. I mean,
Right, but
I
the
think
the point of this program is to have honest conversations.
No.
So,
And I'm trying to, which is to say, I'm going to be by default less outraged by things that Trump does and more outraged by the other side. That's just literally how DNA wise, to your point, I'm wired that way. I'll be honest about it. I am less outraged, but do I think that letting people, again, I don't want to speak about a case that I can't say I know well. So
do you even read the letter from the Justice Department to the U.S. attorney? No. All right.
I mean, it is.
So Sean's recused from talking about this because he hasn't paid any attention to it. Trust me, if you read into it, you'd be outraged. I'm confident you'd be outraged.
Just to be clear, because I bet most of the people on Zoom have not read it or followed very closely. The lead prosecutor who resigned clerked for Antonin Scalia and was appointed to her position by Donald Trump. This was not a Bill Clinton, Barack Obama appointee who, came up through the liberal machine. This is a tried and true Republican and her colleagues who all resigned saying basically this is outrageous.